Unfortunately, going through a very deep down phase, I realized that I didn't know what my future was going to be. I studied media and communications at the University of Melbourne. Are the Australians racist? For anybody, I think, wanting to pick up the right course, and it's something that I would also tell my younger self, is one thing that really helped my application process. Life takes you to an international university, is whether you should do it online or offline. If we talk about the costings, I'll take it in two parts. Hi, my name is Mallika Bajaj. I'm a tech entrepreneur, founder, and director of Little Yellow Beetle, Ballistic Learning, and Apna Doctor. We're working towards e-learning and e-healthcare. I picked up everything that I learned about digital transformation by studying it Melbourne first under the Victorian education system. I then went to Goldsmiths at London, which is the mecca of media and communication studies in Europe. And then on the way, did a little bit of learning distant from the NYU and Harvard because I wanted to get the fuss about the universities. I think the one of the best gifts that I've had in terms of the investment that I've been invested in is the fact that my parents didn't actually take the traditional expenditure route, which is say for my wedding, dowry mein kya denge. I don't think all that happened, and they did not think of we're going to save for her future. Someone will take care of her. I think the background that I come from, the parenting that I come from, they've invested in me and my future, and with me by investing in me today. They're saying you are responsible for yourself. We are investing in you and your process, and you take care of everybody around you. So I think that's a way of looking at life, and I think therefore everything that you know of me, everything that there is on Google or everything, the reason I'm on Josh Talks today here as well is also because of the investment that was made in me was not the traditional route. It was a very beautiful day in my life where I was unfortunately going through a very deep down phase. For someone who actually has always known that everything in life has a meaning, I was undergoing an injury at that particular point. Growing up, having played tennis, it was the only thing I'd learned how to do professionally. And suddenly, when I was injured, I realized that I didn't know what my future was going to be. So we were looking for options. I took to the camera. It was the next best thing. I love talking to people. I wanted to give back, go back to the tennis court because I couldn't play. The only other best option was to hang around my friends, document their life. And before we knew it, we had a little documentary called Tennis, Play and Stay. It was one of the best things that has ever happened to me in my entire life. I studied media and communications at the University of Melbourne. The first time being alone. In India, of course, I'm very cognizant of the privileges that I have. We have drivers driving us to places or school buses, etc. And my dad told me you have to walk to college and come back and I'll be seeing you at lunch. And I remember picking up a pizza after class. I was on campus, like I said, I lived at Trinity College. It was 5 minutes from university. And next thing I know, for anybody who's watching this in Melbourne, walked from Royal Parade all the way to Rod Laver Arena. Rod Laver Arena because as a tennis player, looking at the Rod Laver felt like home. So I walked in that direction, and I've literally passed the entire day, right? I don't have a phone network because it wasn't set up. I didn't have a time watch set on my time because I was in India Standard Time at that particular point. And I come back home. I finally find my way back on that pizza ride, and I see my dad patiently waiting for me because that's the kind of person that he is. He was very proud that I finally found my way back. So going into Australia was literally an extension of my own self. And while everything is so different, everything is also very similar because as Indians, we very quickly find home in people and places that we find ourselves in. It's who we are. And so I think very similar, and of course, credit where it's due. I think Australia is also very similar to us in the way they've built up past the history that they've had. We have so much in common. I think we've got so much great respect. Both the countries were very friendly, great allies. And so I think the whole experience of studying in Australia was just that the language is a little bit different because they do have a lot of slangs. But apart from that, I think they're the warmest, nicest, most generous people on the planet, much like most other countries that I've also been to. But I think Australia is always closest to my heart because it's where I found myself, and I call it my second home, also because of the people that they are. The biggest question I think that I face, because I was there when this entire event exploded, which is are the Australians racist? I want to answer this question in two parts. One, from my own personal experience, because it was my first live on ground how not to be a media reporter experience, because I learned very quickly how you can change the narrative, and some people are paying for this particular story to come out a certain way. And so I think it becomes really important to recognize that uh, stories can be told and there can be many perspectives. And of course, was I, as an Indian woman in Australia, harassed by Indian men? Yes. Were there Asian women who were trying to prompt it, because it's so common to say, yeah, why don't you, support my friend and their bad behaviors? Come on, you're being really rude. Of course, all those things happened, and you could probably, someone who's listening to this could spin it up as being racist or gender, or oh, she's Indian, she's being all privileged, or she's an international student, of course she's looking for mileage. All those stories could come together, but I think the fact that Australia took up my security as core responsibility was one of the responses to that particular response system of whether the Australians are racist. I was primarily almost invited to be part of the education system. It started midway. It was very, very intensive. Of course, I had to give an IELTS exam, which was done in Gurgaon and Delhi. And I think once that got done, they wanted a few basic papers from me. The one thing that really helped my application process to be expedited or set out from the multiple applications that came, maybe, was probably because I've never dug it out. I've never asked why I was shortlisted, but I think it was because I played a lot of tennis, I played a lot of sport. Australia is a sporting nation, and I'd made a documentary. I was very keen on, learning more about learning how to make a documentary, everything from starting to make it, to sell it, to brand it. And so I think it fell really well in the media and communications realm. And so I think it really worked for building the entire product up, which is a media and communications company with me now. While I picked up media and communication because I felt like having traveled the world with tennis, having met people of different cultures because of tennis, and then tennis actually got me to a whole new world, which was Australia, I realized the impact media and communications could have with the destiny that I was now a part of as well. So I wanted to bring both of those realms together. And for anybody, I think, wanting to pick up the right course, and it's something that I would also tell my younger self, is don't focus too much on the course. Of course, you want to be happy with what you're studying because you're spending so much time on studying. But I think it's really imperative to pick up the faculty, which is what I did, and it served me really well. See the people that you're going to be working with, the management. I think when you go to an international audience, say for example, I went to Melbourne. The best thing that happened to me was that I got the opportunity of working with Australians as my professors, as staff management, as on the housing campus around me. You get to learn so much about the culture. At present, I've come back to India after studying in London, in Australia, doing a little bit in the US myself. I had very early recognized the need for India to be communicative to the rest of the world, because while we are an enormous human capital, it's important that India is digital, which is what my company, Little Yellow Beetle, does. We came back, we set it up in 2013, and then automatically I had Modi ji who came through and made that a national campaign for us. So we didn't have to look for an ambassador. Nothing better than him, of course. But I think Digital India is what we're working towards. We work in digital healthcare through Apna Doctor and e-learning and ballistic learning. We're working towards continuous, connected, collaborative learning at all levels. We're also very, very cognizant of the fact that digital transformation cannot be and will not remain, because we exist now in English language. Content is now being made basis the research and the knowledge that India has, and we want the world to learn how to talk to us. Indian students, I think, are always competing, I think, primarily with China. We're the largest student export to the world. I think by the end of 24, we're looking at 1.8 million students, a market of about $75 to $85 billion for the world. And so I think it's really important to recognize the asset an Indian student moving to any part of the world could be. Keeping that in mind, of course, you're also the national ambassador, therefore, so then you become very, very responsible. You've got a lot of responsibility on your shoulders as you move to another country. So to be able to build your application processes around this particular understanding, having that kind of awareness of you're actually an asset going to another country because you're exposing them to the world's largest civilization and living memory, if not for the partition, like I said. is build on your authenticity. Talk about the languages you can speak. Talk about, the extracurricular activities. And your extracurricular activities do not have to be, oh, I went and did ballerina. You could be as Indian about it and say, I'm a trained classical dancer, or I teach students, maths at home, because learning can be at any platform. The fact that you're really good at cooking something, the fact that you're really good at sewing, the fact that you're really good at maybe playing sport, yoga, meditation. You could pick up anything and that becomes a skill. So be proud of where you come from, be proud of your lineage, add those authentic updates in your application process, because to be honest, they understand what we bring to the table, but it's important for you to be able to recognize what you're bringing to the table, for them to be able to invite you and then guide you in a certain process. If we talk about the costings, I'll take it in two parts. Firstly, the perspective. So if you're looking at it as an expenditure, it is very, very expensive. There's absolutely no denying that. Even if you're on scholarship, living expenses, I think your travel exchange rate becomes really, really extreme sometimes, depending on the country that you're going into. But I think if you look at it as an investment, it's absolutely worth it, because you're building yourself up in a country which is very different. At a very, very young age, you're exposed to the possibilities of opportunities and complexities that a world has to offer in a particular time. And from the exposure of the people that you're surrounded by, how can you respond differently to life? I think that's one of the biggest investments you can make as a human being at a younger age, because then you have more time playing and having fun in life because of the exposure that you have. The second part of it has to be the one thing that we never talk about. I think it's the emotional cost of things, the emotional cost that the family has to bear. And I'm going to bear it out as it is. I don't think studying abroad is for the faint hearted parents. I come from a set of parents who are very, very open and aware of the fact that every human being has their own destiny. I've never been raised in a gender specific role. They've allowed me, they've trusted me, and I think that's one of the biggest investments in me. And so, therefore, everything that I do is based out of the investment that was put in me. I understand that I have a nest which is safe. I come home to it, and it's my savings account. But at the current account space, I'm doing what I think I'm following my heart. I'm doing what I think I'm best at. I've been given the opportunity. People trust me. They invest in me, their time. And I think that's one of the biggest costs that we never talk about when we're studying outside, because we are in a different time zone. We can't always be there sharing experiences with each other. Pick up the phone when you're really, really down and out. You have to wait for people to wake up. I think those kind of emotional expenses are far higher than the money that you spend. One of the biggest opportunities, if you do and your life takes you to an international university, is whether you should do it online or offline. Personally, if you can and life allows it for you to happen, please go to the offline campus and experience the country, the people, the culture, the traditions, because I think the biggest part about a learning experience or living life is how you consume the energy that you're surrounded by, how you react to the immediate options that come to you, the possibilities that you're surrounded by, the challenges that you're surrounded by, how those people, because multiple people, different responses to life, what are you learning from them? I think that constant energy flow between human beings is beautiful. So if you can experience that, of course it's the best learning ground. But even if you do not get that particular experience, and if you can study online and do it on a distance platform, I think it's important to recognize what you're studying, how it's going to help you build your career, your own personality, whether you're doing it as additional information. And I think there is some sort of credibility that comes with almost all kinds of education backgrounds, right? So to be able to learn what you need to pick up from there, and then how you build up on it, identify what was verified, what was dug in. So I think for the digital platform, I think if you do not get the opportunity to go on the offline space, on the digital spaces, recognize that it is an opportunity. You get to learn. It's very, very rapid. It's not as, human exchange, but of course it has merit. And if that's what it is, I think learning can come in any form, as long as you're growing, you're open, you're taking what you need to, and then also from what you already know, dig out the actual background of how anything has evolved. I think whether it's your course, whether it's a story that's being told, learn to dig out the narrative, because a lot of the education that we've been given is from a certain perspective. It's not wholesome, and I think that's one of our biggest challenges that digital transformation helps us take care of, because we can actually go into the roots of the origin of things and spin it around with our perspective, our own exposure, and tell our own stories, so that they can help everyone around us as well. So I think if you can get an opportunity to learn from anywhere, online or offline, do it. It's really important to recognize that the whole Vasudev Kutumba, one earth, one family, one world, is where we're headed towards. I think India is the answer for all the enormous human capital that we come from the research, the wisdom, the knowledge that we have in the languages that we speak, that the world learns how to speak with us. And from all the knowledge that I've gathered from across the world, this is my one mission, that we all build a better world for all of us, not based on who we are, where we come from, but all of us, so we all grow together. Thank you very much, and I hope that you have a great time studying abroad or wherever you're studying, but be open to learning from life, because remember, everything in life has a meaning, and know that you're in the right place at the right time with the right people always. So trust the universe.